in terms of, you know, the standard joke, you know, what do you call knee mobility? Torn ACL, right? Not very funny, huh? Particularly if you've torn your ACL, you probably don't even get a chuckle out of that. But that's the idea. So if you look at that, you know, it's very simple for people to accept the idea. You know, if we said to somebody, okay, you know, we're going to work on knee mobility. You know, part of the warm-up, we're going to be like, I want you to really like jam your into that medial, you know, to work on your knee mobility. People would be like, you are a moron. You know, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. You know, you're going to damage the medial collateral ligament. Any idiot who took the most basic course would know that. When we get to the back, what should we talk about? Because we're basically in the back, we do the exact same thing, or a lot of people are doing the exact same thing, but calling it, you know, training. But we won't get too bogged down in that. Knee stability. This, to me, is sort of the essence of knee stability. Can you do this? If you can't do this, you're not strong, you're not healthy, you're not ready to play. Angela now, she actually just graduated from college, but she was, God, thinking about it, this is almost 10 years ago now, because she was junior in high school. 7 years ago, 8 years ago. But that's her reconstructed leg that she's on. That's her ACL at 8 months. Now she's saying, should I do my good leg? Should I show them what the other one looks like? And you can see there's no difference. So the idea, you know, if somebody's knee stability is disrupted, you've got to recreate their knee stability. If you don't recreate their knee stability, you know, this is why, I think when I look at this is why people have re-tears. We've got a girl right now that we're dealing with who's had 3 ACL injuries, and I can pretty much guarantee you she can't do that. I mean, I'd be willing to bet the farm that she can't do it. And that's part of it. I look at that and think, and again, now when we look at this is relatively unloaded in terms of she's got about 10 pounds in each, you know, or 5 pounds in each hand. There was a time when we thought that was strong. Just the ability to do a one-leg squat was strong. Now we realize that that's really probably marginal strength for an athlete. We have, we just posted a video on strengthcoach.com. Dewey Nielsen, one of my buddies, had one of his kids do 135 pounds of total system weight for 5 reps. And this kid had vests on, dumbbells, chains around his neck. But he did 5 good one-leg squats with 135 pounds on his body. The famous Ed Lippy appearing in the videos today. So, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but basically, you know, you got to start simple. You can't just jump up and start one-leg squatting. So you've got to start with something. You've got to start with split squats. You've got to work your way forward. And we won't spend a ton of time. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about this, though. This whole idea has changed. I think everything that I think about lower body training right now has changed in the last 3 weeks. So this is sort of a very timely seminar. I like this because here we have enough stability where we can really load. I don't think, you know, I think your capacity to load, we talk about Dewey's guy doing 135 pounds. You know, it's hard to get enough load on somebody in what we would call that unsupported single leg squat. I still think it's an important movement. I still think you're going to be able to do it. But in terms of getting strong, I think you've got to be able to find something you can load. This is Colin Wilson, who just signed with Nashville. He played for 2 years here. Was a Hobie Baker finalist last year. Doing 225 for 5 in a rear foot elevated split squat. Now, the interesting thing, I was like, wow, this is pretty impressive. This was impressive enough. This was filmed on my Mac. I ran and just got my camera, you know, on the Mac, set it up, and hit play. Because I was like, wow, Willie just threw 225 pounds on there and did it, right? Pretty interesting. This next one. This is Luke Popko, who's our strongest player. He's going to do 230 for 14 reps on each leg. Watch. I'm going to tell you a couple of things as this continues to roll through, and basically, you know, they're just getting ready to spot them, because the one thing we realized is this was a test situation. We gave them a load that was what we felt would be about 100% of their 1 rep max on one leg. So we took what we projected out there, 1 rep max back squat. In Luke's case, we projected him out to be a 460 back squat. We cut that in half, said this would be 100% of his 1 leg squat. We knew it wasn't going to be 100%. Then we said, okay, do 100% as many times as you can do it. 14 reps at 100%. When you talk about, if you're watching, if you guys sitting here as a seminar, somebody who's watching this on DVD, this changes every single thing that we think about. Because what we realize now, the weak transducer, the place that we lose squatting, in the back. Squatting is not a lower body exercise. It's a low back exercise. And at some point, your low back doesn't allow you to transfer any more force to your legs, and you stop. but in no way does it allow you to get maximum work capability out of your lower body. And I'm convinced after seeing these loads, you know, my freshman the other day, they did 115 for 15, every one of them. Did 15 reps on each leg with 115 pounds. If I had said to them, you're going to back squat 230 for 15, absolutely no conceivable chance that they could do it. I don't think they could back squat 230 for 5. So what does that tell you? We're not, you know, and this is going to be the hardest thing for people to accept. You know, the musclehead crowd, you know, the T-Nation crowd, the internet forum crowd is going to be like, but Mike, you're saying don't do squats anymore. Yes, I'll look right at the camera. Yes, I'm saying don't do conventional squats anymore. We are at that point, and I've talked to Jeff about this. The thing that we were trying to figure out, okay, how do we test it? So this is what we talked about before, implementing, experimenting. We went in and said, let's figure out what we think will be an acceptable load, and then simply ask them to do a repetition max test. And again, our weakest player did 145 for 14. And so if we translate that out to a back squat, that translates out to 290 for 14. His best front squat is, I think, 245. Yes?
What if they can't replicate those same reps from one leg to the other leg?
We have not seen that at all. It'd be very interesting. We were almost, maybe 2 reps was the most difference, Karen? So the worst difference that we saw was 2. And almost everybody was exactly equal. But I think, again, I'd probably do a little bit more work. I would think if you saw a dominant to non-dominant problem, so basically we can go back a step, thinking that a right-handed basketball player is going to be left leg dominant. If my right-handed basketball player who's left leg dominant does 2 more reps than he does on his right leg, I'm probably going to consider that to be within normal. If my right-handed basketball player who I think is left leg dominant does 2 less reps, I'm probably going to be really concerned. But we did not see a lot of asymmetry at all. The problem that there's a couple things that we saw, and then I'll answer your question. One, depth is an issue because they're not going as deep as they would have in what we would have looked at as kind of our parallel squat. And there's an inconsistency in depth. But what we did, the reason, and so it goes back sort of to validity and reliability for your stats class in terms of, you know, is it valid, is it reliable? I don't think it's valid to compare person to person because of the differences in body types, but I know that it is reliable in terms of I can compare the person to himself because we're using the same height box for everybody. We're putting an Airex pad on the floor. Every rep they have to touch the Airex pad with their knee. So we're not counting any partial reps. There will be a little bit of difference in terms of depth. Some guys will get what looks like a really good parallel squat. Some guys will look like they're maybe 10 or 15 degrees above parallel. So there's going to be a problem there. But the big thing is it's so far out of whack in terms of what they could do on 2 legs to what they could do on 1. You know, some people would say, what about, do you think the back foot's helping? Are they pulling with their back leg? I'm like, yeah, all of that could clearly be a factor. The difference in depth could be a factor. Pulling with their back foot could be a factor. It can't account for the fact that we gave them 100% load. And they did, they basically they did 100% load as if it was something in the 65 to 70% range. Which means we could probably increase that load, again, if we just do our math, we could probably increase that load by 30% and still be fine. The other problem that you get here, you can't just do it if you haven't done it. You can't simply say, we're going to do this test. It would be an absolute disaster. You need 4 or 5 or 6 weeks of doing this. The other thing you need, this is like the 4-minute mile. And, everybody's heard the Roger Bannister story. Roger Bannister